Hello again, this is Charles Dominick from Next Level Purchasing, and I'd like to welcome you to the latest edition of my vlog. The topic of this vlog is the purchasing negotiator's worst enemy. Now, if I was to ask you who your worst enemy is in the context of a negotiation, I bet that there's a high likelihood that you would respond that it's your supplier counterpart. That is, the salesperson on the supplier's team who's trying to get the highest price for the product or service that he or she is trying to sell to you. And in some cases you'd be right. In other cases I'd say that you're close but not quite right. Why is that? Well, in my opinion, the purchasing negotiator's worst enemy is the set of assumptions that the purchasing professional makes in context of the negotiation. And let me explain more through a story. I'm thinking back to my first negotiation as a buyer way back in the 90s. And in this particular instance, I was buying signage, and the baseline price we were working with was $100,000. Well, I negotiated with the top-rated supplier, and I was able to persuade that supplier to reduce his price by 20%. I felt pretty good about this, so I went into my boss's office and I said, "Boss, I think we're ready to sign the contract with this supplier. I was just able to negotiate a 20% price increase." I expected him to be pretty happy about that. But he turned to me and said, "Is that as low as they will go?" And I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "How do you know?" And I said, "Well, that's the price we ended up at when we concluded the negotiation." And then he said, "Well, how do you know that they wouldn't be willing to go even lower if you continued the negotiation?" And I must have looked like a deer trapped in headlights because I didn't have a good answer for him. And at that point I realized that the assumption that I was making about the supplier's pricing was limiting my ability to achieve success in the negotiation, or to maximize my success in the negotiation. Unfortunately, these type of assumptions do get in the way of a lot of purchasing success. I have many other examples. I've had conversations with distributors who have said, "Well, we don't train our buying teams in negotiation because we don't negotiate with our manufacturers. They set the price, and that's the price that all distributors pay." Now, personally, having been in a purchasing department for a distributor, I know that that's not true in all cases. But do you see how powerful that assumption is? That assumption is standing between the distributor and that distributor's ability to improve profits through negotiation. And even if the price isn't flexible, maybe payment terms or some other benefit is. I also see a lot of examples in recent years of price increases being just accepted. And buyers will say, "Well, commodity market prices are going up. There's nothing I can do about it." Yeah, it's true that commodity prices have gone up. And maybe you won't pay the same price that you did last year. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to negotiate and maybe take a little bit of the price increase away just through negotiation. But because of the assumption that commodity markets are going up, I must accept price increases, purchasing professionals in some cases are not helping their company's profitability as much as they could. So what I suggest is for you to evaluate yourself in your negotiations. Try to catch yourself making these types of assumptions, and when you do, ask yourself, is that assumption correct? Let me try to challenge that assumption and see what happens. I guarantee you that over the course of your career, you will be more successful in some negotiations because of it. So that's about all for now. This is Charles Dominick from Next Level Purchasing, signing off until the next vlog.